yet. We're going live. Now we're live.
Dang, we're live. All right.
Yeah, there was people already waiting for us.
Look at that. Yeah.
And
it's all of our regulars. Trash Metal, Steve Pastor, Big Bear, what's happening on David Wood, Zach's Mopars and Mashed Potatoes. What a name. I like that. Andy, Unity Motorsports, the smartest person on earth, right? He's like, he makes Tesla and Einstein and Oppenheimer look like monkeys. Let's see.
Well, Tesla only created a death ray.
Andy
created a Holly that worked on the 225.
Andy Woods can see through dimensions, okay? He just simplifies things for us and keeps it in the realm of like carburetors and stuff like that,
sure.
because he knows we're not as evolved as he is. Fubar! It's Fubar the axe. Okay, we can all feel secure now. Matt, what's happening? Joe K, the Dallas is back. Yes, there he is. Wheelie King, what's happening, man? David Wood, Wheelie King. I've been working on my Sportster dirt bike, man. Stripping all kinds of stuff off of it, and envisioning how things are going to work and so on and so forth. Going to do some wheelies through the dirt on my Ironhead dirt bike. This is where I snap.
Do you have a motor for it?
No, I got to get a motor.
What are you looking for? What year of Sportster is that?
I need an Ironhead motor, 1957 through 1984.
Okay, so before the Evo.
Well, actually, I need an XLCH motor. I need a kick only XLCH.
Oh.
So, Slant 6 Sportster. Yeah. Okay. Bush Pilot, what's up in Murfreesboro? You're up, man.
The weather's going fall on us.
Yeah, it is. It's actually chilly today. I took a scoot on the blast this morning, and I was like, "Oh, jeez, this is cold. I don't want winter to come yet." I just started getting back into bikes, and it's right at the change of seasons, Let's see. Steve Pistori evening. What's happening?
Well, I made some valve covers today. You wouldn't believe I made some valve covers today.
You made valve covers?
Yeah. The Buick valve covers to clear like roller rockers and stuff are like $900. Oh, fuck that. And I'm like, $900? Geez, can they get any price here? So I decided to cut up a set of 300 valve covers, and I used the flanges from a later 350 Buick. And because it's the head's the same length, right? So all it was the bolt holes are in the wrong spot. So I cut the flanges off and put different flanges on it.
Did you make them taller?
I did. I made them an inch taller.
There you go.
So if I ever have enough cash to buy some roller rockers, guess what? Now I have valve covers that'll clear, and it looks like a 300 from 65.
Let's see. Moose of all trades, hey guys, wish me luck. I'm about to get a job in Laverne and move out of New York. Congratulations, Laverne, Tennessee. Congratulations.
Yeah, not far at all.
Yeah, you're right up the street over here.
Yeah, we haven't done paint weight yet. We need to do that. The paint weight. The paint weight
we haven't done that yet. We will. Honey, hello job this weekend. Thanks for showing us what it really takes to build and install an engine. It was fun, man.
You guys looked busy. That's for sure.
That was easily the most fun I've had since I started doing YouTube. That was great. That was great. The guys were awesome, right? The guys were awesome. The Junkyard Jet crew, the Austin and John were like just awesome. Andy, working with Andy is a pleasure. He's like military precision, like literally military precision. His friend Mark that he brought down. Great guy, you know what I'm saying? And we just had the best time doing that.
The Kickendale says that he enjoyed the
12 hours paint drying.
Yeah, did you guys just leave that live all night while it was drying for real? No, that's cool.
Yeah, we did it. Like originally it was a goof. I was like, well, let's just put a camera on the thing so people can watch it dry. You know what I mean? Right. And we did it, and it was just, and we just left it. And all night it was like a chat room. I checked in. I didn't. Because on my TV, I can't get the actual chat.
Oh, all right.
But no, I can't participate on the chat. But I flicked on the TV for a few minutes, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and people just
chatting along. Yeah. Huh? Danny Boyd says the paint drying video was the best.
Wayne Russell says Austin is really useful as well as decorative. yeah, he's pretty decorative. Austin, I hope you're watching this.
All right. So Abel D is saying back to the paint weight deal. Experiment should be on a fender on a scale.
Yeah.
Spray it and let the community watch paint dry and watch this.
We could do that too.
Tell the verdict.
We could do that. John Wilburn says, can I rub it in again that the paint drying live averaged about 50% more viewers than the NHRA-centric live stream every Tuesday night? Yes, absolutely. Oh, God. Douglas Philo says it was quite threshold for those who still do acid. Oh, please. Yeah, I can imagine, man, sitting there just like, that would be epic. That would be epic.
I saw that spot dry.
Yeah, I wish they still did acid, man. It was like, Danny Boyd says, I woke up to take a leak in the middle of the night and couldn't get back to sleep, so I jumped back into the chat at like 4:30. Yeah, I bet you a lot of people were like that. But yes, we had the best time. That was just an ultimate time because everybody was just working and involved. You know what I'm saying? And like there was just teamwork. Everybody was just working together. And man, we did like really seriously a couple of weeks worth of work in 2 days. So and it couldn't have been done if it wasn't a tight team. And nobody made it a tight team. It was just all of the personalities just got together, and it was just like make it happen. And it was absolutely awesome. And I got to try to find. I want to do that again. I want to do that again soon. The 2x4 creaked all night. No, that's this building, man. The whole building. It's a cheap metal structure. It's big, right? And it just sways.
Well, and you'd have to see it to like really understand what's going on because it's literally like a building inside of a building. Like right now we're inside the same building, but it's a 8x10 room. Right.
It's like he says, this is a building inside of a building.
How can we know the camshaft polished okay? Well, did it lose oil pressure?
No.
Is it clattering?
No. Well, it's clattering as a Hemi.
Okay, but is it clattering like
no. We eyeballed after we ran it, how the valve cover was off. We cycled it. We watched every rocker, checked the ballpark check, but it's like a feeler gauge and everything. You can tell when something's going bad. And no, all of the lash is good. It cam set fine. So now we just it wouldn't idle. So I got to figure out what's going on with the carburetors and why it's not idling. So that's the next step with it. But yeah, no, it worked out great. Saturday, he'll be here Saturday, and we'll finish the car up and get it out of here.
Pretty quiet Hemi motor. Well, it had exhaust on it though too, right?
Yeah. It was going through the stock exhaust. Doug Norton. So the 20-minute cam break in versus the 3 10-minute cam break in. Thoughts? I don't know what a 3.
I don't know what that is, but I would stick to the 20 minutes straight.
Yeah. We did shut the motor down. It started immediately. It ran for about 10 or 15 seconds, and I realized I forgot to tighten the fuel lines. So the fuel lines were dripping out of the carburetors. So I had to shut it down and tighten them, but then it started right back up again. So in a situation like that, it's not that bad. It's an interruption, but it's not like it idled and fumbled and did all kinds of shit. It was a clean shut and then a clean restart. So it was okay. And we went from 20 minutes from the restart to the time, we shut it off.
Eureka 7 Wave 7, Uncle Tony in Dallas. My 383 has a weird issue where when you rev it, it gasses out. Replace fuel pump, idle is close, timing is at 10 degrees, oil is 5W30, dwell is around 18 to 30 degrees. Okay, so there's 2 things that could be happening. It sounds like you're loading it up when you give it some gas, right?
Yeah, I don't know what he means by gas is out.
I think it sounds like it's getting like it is loading up or it's too rich, right?
I don't know. Define what you mean by gas is out.
But I was thinking, okay, I've had a problem before where even though you had set the initial timing, the mechanical weights weren't moving inside the distributor, and that'll cause it to get really rich too, because it's not, the timing's not advancing, and it essentially does not run worth a crap when you rev it up. Food bar, put up the link for the AHRA.
AHRA online merch. So if
Yeah.
you want to buy any of Dallas's extraordinarily,
I'm going to call it extensive
your extensive
catalog of merchandise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, high fashion. This is high fashion stuff.
Yeah, get in there and buy some things and support us so that we can continue to do this.
Yes.
Brake clean versus carb
well,
spray.
Eureka 7 says it stopped running after RPM drops by 80 to 90%. Oh, okay.
It's getting too rich.
Yeah, it's just too rich. That, I mean, it could be a float height issue, could be an excessive fuel pressure issue. Check and see what your fuel pressure is. Sometimes you get a fuel pump with a stuck bypass, and the fuel pressure will just keep going up with RPM. But yeah, that's probably what it is.
Well, it sounds like when you close the throttle blades down, it goes super rich enough to kill the motor.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm thinking that, your float is a big one. I don't know what carburetor you're using on it, but and stuck needle in seat.
Well, I'm assuming by his description that it idles okay, and then it's only after he revs it up and it goes to settle back down to an idle, that's when he has the problem. By his description, that's what I'm guessing at. So with that, you can eliminate things like a power valve or the float set too high, and it's probably a fuel pressure issue.
Huh.
Unity Motorsports Garage, Bill Brasky, this was back in the 70s, and according to him, cams had fine machine chatter marks that were harmonic. Polishing the cam helped control the valve train dynamics, which equals power. Interesting.
Oh, so it was creating a harmonic at low RPM, I guess is what he's saying.
Yeah. But I mean, if you polish them, wouldn't you? I mean, if you polish them really fine to get rid of any chatter, wouldn't you be like inhibiting
the lifter from turning?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's a fine line that you would walk, because once the lifter stops rotating, you might as well just throw that sucker in the trash. Not the lifter, but the cam itself too.
Our car was rebuilt by Woodruff. It's a 2-barrel BBD accelerator pump is fine. Yeah, I'm telling you, just check, put a fuel pressure gauge on it and see what the gauge is saying. At higher RPM. Forget about what's saying at idle. See what's saying at higher RPM. I'm assuming you get the mechanical fuel pump on there.
It sounds like something might be up with that carburetor, because it has no secondaries, right? Because it's a BBD 2-barrel.
Yeah.
You can't put too much accelerator pump in it because they only got like one accelerator pump to choose from.
But what would that have to do with the thing coming down?
Well, I'm trying to think about how, when you rev it up and then close the throttle.
Eureka 7 if the old pump was clearly worn compared to the new one, unless the actual gear driving the fuel piston. No, I'm not thinking that you have too little fuel pressure. I think you have too much fuel pressure. Greg McDonald says a polished cam might need a thicker oil to help spin the lifters. I would think the exact opposite, that the thicker lifter would be more resistance to the lifter turning.
It would have more, what do they call it?
Stiction.
Well, is it stiction? I'm thinking like surface tension, right?
Yeah.
And it would inhibit it. It would lubricate better and stick to the surface better. Really, but that's exactly why the zinc is in the oils, is for that purpose. It's still having taper. Yeah. Well, I can see it, if it still has taper, that's fine. But if you get it too polished, I know for a fact, if you go to reuse a cam and if the lobes on the used cam are significantly shiny, you throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, according to them, though, that would be polished, and that's what you're looking for.
Right. And I don't understand.
I'm going to look into this. This is the first I've heard of this. No, I know it would still have taper, but if the lobe is polished where it contacts the lifter, if it's too fine,
It doesn't have enough friction.
Polished, yeah, there wouldn't be enough to grab the lifter and actually have it turn. It would be more likely to ride on the oil film than the actual.
What is the normal PSI for the fuel pump on the 383? Oh, I would say it'd be 4 to 6 pounds is probably acceptable.
Yeah, he's right. 4 to 6 pounds is about. But again, you see, if you've got a fuel pump, okay, so you don't have a problem idling. You're idling fine, okay, and it revs fine, right? But now your problem is when you come down to go back to idle, it floods out. So what that's telling me is that when the RPM comes up, so does the fuel pressure to the point that it's pushing past the needle and seat, and the bowl is now overfill.
And it's dumping it in the motor.
Right. So when you go back down to idle, it's got to bleed off the overfill part of the bowl into the engine, and then quote gas it out.
I know. I've seen something like this before where I wonder if it's a return style fuel pump, and that return gets plugged. Right? Because it's designed and intended.
It wouldn't be on a Chrysler. It would just be a simple in and out.
It doesn't have a return style like for air conditioning?
No, and it has an internal regulator. It has an internal bypass to keep the pressure from spiking like that. Huh. So if the bypass isn't working, so let's say he's got 4 pounds, 5 pounds, 6 pounds at idle, but then at, let's say, 2,000 RPM, he's got 15 pounds, right?
Right.
Or even 8 pounds. So let's just say that. It's gradually overflowing.
It's pushing past the needle and seat at that point.
Then when you go back down to idle, you got all of that fuel level that's above the boosters, and it's just going to drip, 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 and it's going to kill the motor.
Right.
Ari is here. Your working C may disappear. It's okay, brother man. Just having you check in is enough.
Mark Bly says he also got 2 bad brand new lifters from a big known company.
Really?
Yeah, I like what Andy did when he went out and got them NOS lifters. That's what I have been doing with these Buicks. I bought that whole bulk set, and I've been lucky. I mean, I've been reusing cams, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with reusing the cam as long as you use a new set of lifters.
Mark Bly, how were they bad? What company was it, and what type of lifters, and how were they bad? In what way are they bad? Okay. But yeah, dropping the float level will not help that. It won't help. One thing has nothing to do with the other. If it's pushing past the needle and seat, it's going to push past the needle and seat regardless of where the float level is. Stuff with Cletus Automotive. See you guys. I've got a live at 11 Central tonight. About to start a challenge. If anybody wants to be part of the challenge, you're all welcome. That's interesting, Cletus. Tell us about your challenge.
What's your challenge? Yeah, you can't just throw that out there and then not say what it is.
Brian Jeffs, would you worry about new solid lifters? Yes, I would. I've gotten to the point now I worry about every lifter.
That's kind of where I'm at. And it's like, you can't even go to, well, all right. So when they started having lifter failures in like 2006, when they took the zincs out of the oil, the go-to was, hey, put rollers in it, right? So you used to just go, oh, all right, well, I'll put rollers in it. Instead, I won't have a lifter failure. Now you just get shitbox lifters, the rollers, solid rollers, flat tap it. It doesn't matter. They're junk.
I feel oddly vindicated through all of this stuff, because when we first started this channel, I had 2 cam failures with my GT, and we had one with bottle rocket. Oh. And everybody, man, I mean, people were just ripping me a new one in the comments. I mean,
Tony, you don't know how to build a motor.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? I don't hide anything. If I make a mistake on this channel or something fucks, that's it. We show it just the way it is. I don't have an ego to protect. I'm just doing my thing, and I'm bringing you along for whatever part of the ride you want to take. So,
Mark Bly is saying they're spongy and bleeding down.
Yeah, there you go. That's the problem.
Too much tolerance.
Yeah. So I had 3 lifter/cam failures in the space of a year on this channel, and people were just ripping me a new one all the time in the comments. Yeah, that's not what he's doing, right? But now it's like everybody across the board is having problems with these things. It's like, so it's like I was ahead of the curve. I was ahead of the curve.
So
but yeah, I feel oddly vindicated through all of this.
Cletus says that he's sorry about that you not telling us what the details were. It's going to be a beater challenge. Buy a cheap car, fix it, and flip it. Chat is helping with the rules. Everyone will be judged on the cost, coolness of the car, how good it comes out.
That sounds like a great thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but by all means, like, promote it here. You may get a lot of people who yeah, absolutely. That sounds cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that nobody's done that before. You also had axle failure, rocker failure, and even suspension bushing failures. Yeah, one of them was my fault. Well, it's not technically my fault. It's just the way when I tied it down, that old ass bushing fell out. But is there a way to inspect and keep old but good lifters? Oh man, I tell you what.
If you still see a crown on them, if you,
I screwed with this the other day with that 300 when I took it apart because I knew it's got old lifters in it, right? And I thought about keeping them and keep it with the cam, and then I pulled them out and they're convex, and I'm like, oh, man, I
convex or concave
or concave. Concave is
that's junk.
Yeah, and I'm like, they're indented inwards.
Yeah,
right. That's concave. Okay, so. And I'm like, oh man, do I really want to screw with this? Because I could actually have them refinished and put them back in the motor because they got 30 to 60 thousandths of lash, but it's actually preload, right? And then that's quite a bit, 30 to 60 thousandths. So you could probably get away with taking 30 off of it and not have a problem.
Need metal. Bottle rocket this weekend. No bottle rocket this weekend. The track has decided to close for Halloween. Their schedule had this coming Saturday, the 30th, as the final test and tune. It's the final test and tune of any track in this area. And we got a notice yesterday, saw it on Facebook yesterday, that they've decided to close for Halloween. So no, we won't be running the car this weekend. That's
kind of odd. Usually they're open for like a trunk and treat.
They must be making money hand over fist. I got to tell you right now. In New York, we have like Atco is open year round, right? Year round. I mean, I raced there in the fucking snow, okay?
Oh, you know what I just saw?
What?
There's a guy from Long Island, New York, who's a fifth-generation farmer, just bought Wilkesboro drag strip in North Carolina.
Okay, but that doesn't do us any good. That's 600 miles away.
I know. I'm just saying, I just thought it was kind of neat that somebody from Long Island, they still lives there, went down and bought Wilkesboro drag strip. And I thought that was pretty cool.
When I lived in New York, I almost bought Craven County Dragway in North Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that's a long time. That was a long time ago. So, and anyway, the track owners must be making money hand over fist because you have good racing weather here until December, right? And they all close. Everybody closes in November. So,
and you could honestly push it almost to the beginning of January if you wanted, depending if you were hardcore enough, because it's really just going to get cool here.
I don't know. If I had a drag strip, I would just be open year round. I mean, unless there's snow on the ground, people are going to want to fucking race. And even if there is snow on the ground, run your snowmobiles. I mean, I can't comprehend the idea of a drag strip closing for the winter. You think YouTube has revived amateur drag racing? You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean, it was a combination of YouTube and I think all the Discovery Channel programming, all that, the Street Outlaws and No Prick Kings, all that stuff, that really went a long way towards getting people enthusiastic about drag racing again. Because God knows it wasn't the NHRA or any of the stuff that they're doing. Tim Miller, insurance costs. Insurance is going to cost you the same in December as it costs in July.
What's the coldest it gets in Tennessee? Oh, a couple of years ago, it got down to like -4. But see, we only have like cold for pretty much the month of February. I mean,
January and February.
January can get cold, but man, guaranteed, February you're going to be cold.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like real cold.
Yeah.
But December is like hit or miss. One day it'll be 65 degrees, and the next day it might be 35.
Yeah.
What's the difference between NHRA and AHRA? We're focused. The AHRA is focused specifically on the sportsman racer. If you go watch an NHRA event, no one cares about the sportsman. They're focused on just the pros.
Wheelie King took his wife to the dregs for the first time in 15 years. She loved it. Yeah, of course. What's not to love, man? It's the dregs. John Wilburn says YouTube has been good for cars in general. I met a 14-year-old today who just bought his first car, a 68 Ford station wagon with a 390. Wow.
Oh, cool. That's a cool first car.
Yeah.
I love wagons. I'm like a big, huge wagon nerd, right? I don't know how many of them I've had. The G body wagons, or the A bodies, actually what they were, but I think I've had 5 of them suckers.
Yeah, what's not to love about station wagons? Don, when the English say they've had it snow on Halloween, yeah, in New York we used to get it like that. Let's see.
Wheelie King says he's a wagon fan as well, but his wife doesn't love it. That's fine. Go get a Suburban. My Suburban is like my favorite wagon so far because it's like a truck wagon. It can do anything a truck can do.
Battery is saying he's coming around to vans and street freaks. I'm coming around to the street freak thing. You know, they were cool. They were just cool. And show rods, stuff that I had no appreciation for when I was a kid. But I actually, you know, I find myself looking at that stuff now. You know, like the phone booth tee and the bathtub with the 2 Hemis in it. And I mean, it's like, you know, it's goofy stuff, but you know, it's cool at the same time.
The Gas is asking, he's nearing retirement and looking to escape Northern Virginia. How did you decide to make the move from New York to Tennessee?
I visited a friend here and called Kathy and said, I am moving to Tennessee. And if you want to come, you know, start getting your stuff in order. And that's literally how it went. I got here. I just took one look around. I says, done, sold, right? I'm moving. Wheelie King says he's thinking Street Freak as well. Just picked up a tunnel man from Jed. Oh, okay, cool. Drag Boss, thank you, man.
Yeah. Oh, I actually need to send Drag Boss's gaskets. I reached out to him and got his address, and I keep forgetting to send it to him. He's trapped up in like.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I think he's trapped up in like Ohio or something, right? Isn't that where he's at?
I don't even know. There's all I know is that, look. Here's the thing about Tennessee. Okay, here's the thing about Tennessee. There are places in this country, in the world, in this country, that have better everything. Right? You'll find better scenery. You'll find better, you know, beaches, or we don't have beaches, right? You'll find better, you know, food, or you'll find better this, you'll find better that, better the other thing. But the general quality of life in Middle Tennessee is astronomical.
On average, all that stuff averaged together.
And we have, I'm going to tell you flat out, period, end, because I know this country, man. I spent a long time zigzagging all across it and being all these different places. And I am telling you, point blank, beyond a shadow of a doubt, Middle Tennessee, the Nashville area, is the finest place on earth, period. I'm here for 20 years now, man, and I have never once considered leaving here, you know, because I know what's out there. I know what's in the rest of the world. You know what I'm saying? So I have never, ever once considered leaving here.
Well, I narrowed it down after I retired from the Navy because it was all based on taxes. Everybody was wanting to tax your retirement income, right? And here's California. I got offered a job in California for a pretty good amount of money, but they were wanting like 10 or 15% of my retirement income, and I didn't even earn it there. I earned most of it on the ocean. And it's like, man, these guys freaking 10%? Come on.
Bruce W. Tony, Hemi plug wires. Is it possible different size Hemis had different valve cover heights, or are they all the same, e.g. valve covers between Hemis interchange? Yes. All 426 Hemi valve covers interchange. There is only one length of spark plug tube, and it's the spark plug tube that you're actually going with. And as far as the spark, because people are like, oh, he's using shorter spark plugs than stock. No, he went out and bought 40-year-old auto lights. Yeah, and like they're old plugs. They're, you know, he found new old stock everything for that car. So no, No, there's only one length spark plug tube for the 426 Hemi. There's only one type of valve cover. There's
Well, they use the same spark plug tube as a slant. I figured they probably would save a little cash. No,
Well, the same design,
right?
but the slant one is this long and the Hemi one is this long.
Okay, fair enough.
Tony, what about 392 Hemi valve cover heights? Completely different animal.
Your name here, or your name can be here for $20. What was the worst thing about being a New York hot rodder?
Always going to jail. Driving to jail all the time. Doing cool stuff with cars, or just being yourself, a car guy in New York City, meant always going to jail for one thing or another.
Oh.
Eric Uncaffer, you love Detroit, Michigan. I mean, Detroit has a lot of good. Detroit's got a lot of weird and a lot of bad, man. There's places where the cannibals run wild, right? You know, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Hey, Bruce W. He said hello. So, well, I remember like in the 80s, wasn't Detroit like the murder capital of the United States in the 80s? I mean, it's a great place. I was there, let's see, 1994. I went to Detroit. I was working for Jeep at that time, and they sent me all over a bunch of plants, Chrysler, to fix some things that were screwed up on some of the equipment that my company had sent them.
Detroit, where the weak are killed and eaten. I know. I mean, before Tennessee, I actually thought about Detroit. I thought about I loved the area around Racine, Wisconsin, everything around Great Lakes Dragway. I loved that area, but the weather turned me off, man. The weather was just too much. And then finally, when I came down to Tennessee, I was like, bingo, this is it, right out of the ballpark.
Oh, I haven't. So your name here for $20 is asking me, hey Dallas, to help my friend trade out those converters. I picked up a slant. I don't know, at the Slanted Nationals, I picked up a switch pitch converter.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, and I traded the high stall one for the ST300 that fits in the Turbo 400. That's out of a mid-sized car with a small motor. Traded for a Riviera Wildcat one, and I haven't used it yet. I have not used it. I'm probably going to have to, because my Suburban has eaten the front pump seal again. There's something going on with it. So I'm going to have to dig into it. And I'm thinking the easiest thing to do is I'm going to pull that entire drivetrain out.
Nate B, you said the Hemi seemed a little less snappy during braking. Is it possible the goofy plug wires and something to it? No, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't the plug wires. It's the timing, because I set the distributor to fire without kicking back or anything like that. So it was conservative. If you watch the video, you see the motor went and it started right up as it's supposed to. So,
but that's all you're shooting for a cam brake in.
Right.
You don't do anything else.
Exactly. So while it was running, it started. It was running. It was okay. I gave it a little gas, because you got to keep it at or above 2,000 RPM. You can vary it. You can dip down to like 1,500 for a couple of seconds. You go up to 3,000 for a couple of seconds. That's fine. You want to average 2,000 RPM for the 20 minutes. So after it was running for just enough time that I knew there was heat in the cylinder heads, I gave it some gas, and it was very sluggish. So I left the distributor loose so I could adjust it, and I advanced it a little bit, and it came around. I gave it some, and advanced a little bit more, and it came around a little bit. But that's as far as I went. And it just, first off, street Hemis especially don't snap when you hit the throttle. It's not like my Slant 6 where you hit the throttle and it goes zing, right? The Hemi just does not do that unless you have a blower and nitro on top of it.
It's a street motor.
Right.
It's meant to run on pump gas.
But it's still, I would hesitate to say that the timing is still probably 5 to 10 degrees retarded from where it should be.
Right.
So,
you're just shooting for it to start it. It's just a cam brake in.
But
you need it to run and run right away. That's all you need.
Right. Well, so this weekend we're gonna be doing that. The car, we're putting the whole car together. Bleeding the brakes, put the booster on there, do all the odds and ends, and send it out the door this Saturday.
So J. Russell Finch is saying, did you have to do cam break-ins in the 70s and 80s?
Yes.
Guaranteed.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we didn't worry about it. See, we just did a cam break, and it was like, okay, break in the cam.
Well, every oil had zinc in it.
Yeah.
Every single one. You had good quality parts.
Yeah. You had to break in a cam, but you didn't break in the cam with your balls in your mouth. You know what I mean? That was the difference. You know what I'm saying? Back then, you break in the cam, and it's like, you have a cigarette, you put your feet up and you watch the rotor go, ah, is it time yet? Yeah, okay, almost. All right, is it time yet? Yeah, okay, it's time. And it's done. And you're finished. Now, you start the engine, and you're totally on edge. You're like, it's like this,
I got my life savings in this. I'm about to wipe it out if I do something completely wrong.
And then try to do it on a live broadcast.
Oh, I know. Well, you remember the very first video of this that we did, the very first Wednesday Night Tech Live. I did a live cam break in, and oh my gosh, I was sweating bullets. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't want that sucker to fail on live.
You need zinc on solid lifters even after break-in. Yes, but not as much. Pesidot 666. Do you guys recommend silicone or cork gaskets at the end rails of the block to the manifold? Edelbrock states specifically no cork gaskets needed. Got a manifold oil leak on my 360. Any tips? I always use them. And I use so here. Excuse me. Here's what I do. I don't know what Edelbrock says. I don't care what Edelbrock says. This is what I've always done, and I always will do. Cork gasket, yellow weather stripping adhesive. I guess you could use black. I've always just used yellow. Yellow weather stripping adhesive, a very thin film of it on the block. Stick your cork on there. Let it set for a couple of minutes, and then black RTV in the corners, and put make sure that it drips towards the inside of the motor and not the outside of the motor. So when you put your little blob of black silicone in those corners, do it biased to the inside of the manifold. So when the manifold squishes it down, it squishes it inward, not outward. And that's it, man. You will never have a leak out of that.
I always mess with the Buicks, and the Buicks require it's like a silicone gasket. It's a rubber gasket that you put on the China rails. I think that's what it is called, China rail, China wall, something on the back and the front of the motor,
right,
on the intake manifold. And I've always had problems with them because they're so damn long that when you put them on there, they get sucked in. So I came up with a process to where essentially I would RTV the gasket into place, let it set up overnight, and then I would put the RTV on the top, and it was already held into place by the RTV on the bottom, so it wouldn't suck them in.
Auto 1303. When setting up the dual points for the 426, you showed that dwell is more important than point gap. Well, yes. You set point gap to achieve dwell. You know what I'm saying?
That's the whole purpose.
Right. The whole purpose of point gap is to achieve dwell. So regardless of where the points end up, I mean, there might be slight differences, manufacturer differences.
And maybe that's probably what we need to talk about, because the point gap in relation to, so dwell is saturation period of the coil. Right. That's what you need the coil to be saturated for to produce a good spark.
Right. That's the point is that the points are open. The dual point distributor extends that. So if you set the gap at 17 thousandths on a single point distributor, okay, you'll get 30 degrees of dwell. Ballpark. I'm just throwing this out there, right? You take that same 17 thousandths with a dual point distributor, and you'll get 40 degrees of dwell. So that's
the more you saturate the coil, the hotter the spark.
Right. And the way you set them is the way I showed you when we were doing the video. You set one set of points and you block off the other set. You're on the engine. You should see 30 degrees of dwell. You gap it so you see 30 degrees of dwell. Then you block off the other set. Just put a piece of paper or cardboard between the points. Run the motor, right? Or spin a distributor. And then check that one and set that one for 30 degrees. Now, when you check it, you pull the paper out and you got both sets firing together. Now you'll have your 40 degrees.
Well, there was an interesting question here. 1, 2, 3, Idonna, kick it, whatever. Where do you think this lousy parts epidemic is headed? I think that this is going to be a runaway train if they don't get in front of it. if somebody doesn't step up their game and start, at least manufacturing parts with the standard that they had 10 years ago, they're going to be fucked. They're all going to continue down the drain.
Yeah, we're going to. I don't want to talk about it right now. We're going to do a lot of videos on this subject because it applies to all of us, and it's an evolving situation. So as I get a better handle on what's going on, we'll do more of that. Leyland Hughes. Hey, Tony, I love your videos. I've asked before, but I'm going to ask again. You talk about the 8 3/4, but never mention the Dana 60. When do you pick one over the other and why? The Dana 60 is overkill for most applications. It's really heavy. They're not as easy to work with. See, the 8 3/4, you can have several center sections ready to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And you swap them out.
Right. My thing is that, I'll have a set of 290s to go drive around with. And if I want to take the car to the track, I'll throw a set of 48s, 513s, whatever gear set you can get your hands on. Only it's starting to become limited right now. It used to be you get any gear set you wanted. Now it's like 456 seems to be about the max. But the idea is that they're much easier to work with. They're lighter. They're stronger than dirt. People don't understand how dirty they are. The Dana 60 is a good rear. I have nothing against the Dana 60, but they're heavy and they're not necessary for most applications. And once you get to a lighter car, remember, the Chrysler used the Dana 60 in their 4-speed big block 440 and Hemi cars. Okay. And these cars in general were in the 4,000 pound range.
Shock load.
Right. And with the stick, there's a shock load there, right? So they had to, because of warranty reasons, they had to overkill the rear end on those cars because they knew some 18-year-old kid was going to get in there.
First thing they're going to do, drop the hammer on
drop the clutch and power shift. They're going to stick 6 of their friends in the car and they're going to just run around town, banging gears all night long. They needed to put a rear end that was going to stand up to that. Power shifting on cobblestone streets with a trunk full of stuff and 6 friends in the car. That's why that rear was used in those cars.
And, the Dana 60, the only thing that really killed it is once you set it up, and it's hard to set up. I mean, it's not like a freaking 5-minute job. And once you did set them up, you didn't want to change the gear. If you look at drag racing, for instance, for where these rear ends were used, Dana 60 was primarily used in modified and early pro stock stuff. Yeah. Because it could handle the shock load.
Yeah, 8,000 RPM launches, sidestep in the clutch, 3 paddle ceramic, pad discs with, and it was like bang, and the Dana would hold up to that.
Yeah, the 9-inch, it kind of lived on the heritage of being similar to the 8 3/4 with the easy center section to swap out. You could think about it. If you had a 9-inch car or an 8 3/4 car, you could load the whole family up in the car, drive to the track with some 331 gears, pull on the track, swap the rear end with 2 extra things of training or of gear lube, and be 48 ready, in about a half an hour. So that was the whole benefit of those things, and they're fairly strong.
But the thing about the Dana too is that if you got a good case, you need a case spreader to get the center section out
for the Dana 60.
Yeah. The carrier out. They're a pain in the ass. And a 9-inch Ford, my problem with the 9-inch Ford is that unless you make a surplus of power, the 9-inch Ford eats a lot of power. So that's my main gripe with that.
Bruce W's asking, did you have any luck finding a 456 for Plan Z?
No, I have not.
Maybe this is the way we should go. Plan Z. Ford 88.
Never happened.
No?
Never happened.
Gosh, they're so easy to come by.
I would peel all of the skin off my back before I would eat all of the skin. I would eat my fingers. I would literally eat my fingers before I put a Ford part in a Chrysler car. Any Ford part. Or any General Motors part. It's just that simple. Not that I have anything against the 8.8. I think the 8.8 is a fantastic rear. I raced with an 8.8 for a year. I hammered that thing relentlessly for a year. I know all about how good the 8.8 rear is, and I stand by that. So I don't want anybody to think I'm talking shit about the 8.8. He doesn't like the 8.8. No, I love the 8.8. It's a fantastic rear, but it doesn't belong in a Chrysler product. The Chrysler rear belongs in a Chrysler product. See, that's how I'm a purist like that.
Abel D is asking, which engine pre-1970s would you compare to qualities and characteristics of a 1911? So the most reliable 45 ever made. It would have to be big and brutal, but yet withstand a lot of abuse. Ford FEs were pretty good for that.
No, they had a lot of weaknesses, man. The oiling system and all.
Right, and they also got terrible mileage, but it was generally you turn the key and they would run.
What was it? What was that question?
Which engine would you compare pre-1970s to the qualities and characteristics of a 1911 45?
What's a 1911 45?
That's the big and brutal. It was a pistol, right? But you could literally put sand in it and it was on fire.
See, I'm not a gun guy, so I didn't get that. Okay.
Yeah, that's what the government used when I first joined the Navy was a 1911.
I got you.
So in the 1911 is the year it came out.
I got you.
So it's a big burly freaking handgun that's badass with a lot of power and it's robust. It handles just about anything you throw at it. The only downside is it only holds 6 rounds, and because they're 45 caliber, they take up a lot of room, right? So,
all right, let's see. Mike Batista, cop, Mr. Coppercoat. What's happening, man? How are you, Mike? He was trolling me, Mike Batista. He was trolling me all through the live feed on Saturday with the Coppercoat.
I think probably a 454 it might be a good call for that because they are pretty reliable. You find them in older stuff that got like 200,000 miles on them still, and you're like, gosh, how's this thing still running?
Oh, it's Ron Ward, mostly old parts. Tony Dallas, are you ready for the monsoon? Been raining here for 14 hours and it's heading your way.
Oh,
yeah, bring it, man. Bring it.
At?
He's in Kansas.
Okay, well, yeah, it is coming away.
Bruce W., can you explain why you have a falling out of love with the Miata and your plans for it now? It didn't do it for me. I thought it would. I enjoyed building it. I loved building it. That was fun, and I loved taking it out for a blast, But then that's it. I realized I have no interest in autocross. I want to go. I want to do it, but I really have no interest. I have no interest.
So is it for sale?
No,
because I don't want it.
No.
I don't need another project. That's the last thing.
I'm passing it off to the Junkyard Jet guys, and they're gonna run it however they're gonna run it. Let's see. Danny Buddy, you're going to crush Winky right and sell to the public. I don't sell anything I have. I just don't. It just doesn't. Nothing gets sold. So yeah, I would. I don't know if I'd crush it. I would part it out.
White Jeep.
Well, that's different. That's not something that
you never even started working on.
Right. That's something I just brought in and said no, and I sent it. So yeah, no. Yes, I sold the one next day, as Dallas just said, but I didn't do anything with it. I just bought it. It sat here, and then I sent it. If it was something that I actually worked on, no, it's not for sale at any price. It doesn't matter.
Slag hammer. Oh yeah, when are you going to get back on that one?
Soon.
You got doors for it, right?
Yeah, I have both doors for it. I have all of the sheet metal I need for it. But I've got that slated as like my darkest part of the winter project.
Yeah, you can't even go outside.
Can't go outside. Can't do anything. So that's what I figured. I just going in and make that happen.
No, I get it. That's kind of what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks because I got to stock up on stuff or else I can't work during the winter, right? Because like say you got to clean a block. You know how hard it is to clean a block in the dead of winter?
Yep.
It's impossible.
I know all about it. So what will replace the Miata Nitro Belvedere, please? It's coming, but bro, I'm not ready for that. I just do not have the crew for that.
You need to finish the projects you got now and be happy with them.
Let me explain something about the Belvedere. Okay, so all right, if I had I could physically bring the car here. I could physically start assembling the parts that I have. I could get to work on it. The problem is, if I had that car sitting here right now, complete, ready to run, I have no way to run it. I do not have a crew. I don't have a way to transport it. I don't have the ability to be away from home long enough to use it effectively. So right now, that car is just a non. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because I don't have the resources to do anything with it. As this channel grows, as the people like lots of people cycle through here, but only a few stay. So Dallas is one of the ones that stayed. The Junkyard Jet guys are definitely staying, right? But it's like, I can explain it to you. Like, I have to be surrounded by the right people with the right motivation and the right head. And if you're not, you have to go. And that's what's happened to all of these people who've come and gone through the time. It's just like, you have to go now. You know what I mean? Like you for whatever reason, whatever it happens to be, now you have to go. So I don't have the manpower necessary to run that car. So it'll be time to run that car when I have somebody full-time living at my house that can take care of the dogs and take care of everything else. And I have people I can take with me to a race. I can take 2 or 3 people with me to a race, and we can all be there for a weekend, for 3 days, 4 days, whatever it happens to be. That's when I'll start to work on that car. But until that time, all I'll have is just a flower planter. Like my other cars, I have these other cars, and I do not have the time or the ability to go out and run them. Does that make any sense? But it will come. The channel is growing. You know what I mean? And as the people filter through, I'll keep this one. I'll keep this one. I'll keep this one, right? And eventually I'll have what I'm looking for. And then we'll run the car. And then we'll build the hell with you and we'll go run it. Let's see.
Matt Horvath is saying, "Hey Tony, what rear end is my '58 Imperial?"
Should be 8 3/4.
Murray Lively says, "Hello from Perth, WA, Western Australia."
What's happening, man?
The tunnel ram on your bench needs a high revving 383 and a duster. What do you think?
It's going to be a high revving 383 in the Sledgehammer, right? Yeah. Kingsman Racing Division. Tony, question: have you run a 4-cylinder T5 behind a hot 302? That's got a deeper first and a tighter. I haven't.
I've seen it done, and they gacked it like. Well, the 302 didn't tear it up too bad. It was when they went to a Windsor when that thing gave up.
Let's see.
So Joe K said, "Whatever happened to that dude who stopped by to fix his Ram Charger? You brought him to Jim Bennett. Is that the guy with the slant?
Yeah, the guy with the slant.
Yeah, he made it like almost all the way home, and then it gacked another
Yeah, he
rod.
made it like 20 miles from his destination and it tossed a rod. No, Stuart, why does exhaust run hotter during break-in? Because the rings have to seat. Before the rings seat, there's a lot of friction involved.
And you'll see a lot of sparks come out the exhaust from them. It's the pieces of the ring burning off.
Well, it depends on the type of ring, too. Like a light drag stainless ring, you won't get that. You get
Molly rings, you don't get it either.
Yeah, you better not get it with a Molly ring. But like with a cast ring, there's a lot of friction involved. J. Russell Finch, looking forward to the extraterrestrial live this evening. Yeah, it's not just that, man. We're going to talk about what I call the unified field of weirdness, right? So it's like all of these things that have the same characteristics, and they all have the same exact characteristics. Ghosts, Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, Bigfoot, flying saucers, chupacabras, you name it. They all follow the same patterns. So I call that the unified field of weirdness, and that's going to be the topic for our Halloween show on no cars, man. I don't want to talk about cars on Halloween. We're going to talk.
Why don't you talk about the cars that are unified field of weirdness?
Well, there are things that are there. I know a lot of car people that fit the unified field of weirdness. I raced with a couple of them. But yeah, that's our Southern Night show with Steve Magnanti coming up, and it ought to be pretty interesting.
Okay, so New City Carpet is asking, is there any benefit to gapless rings? Yes.
Yeah, well, yes and no.
Well,
Okay, your opinion on that?
I ran them at a nitrous motor, and I was really happy with them. What I did find though was
Well,
that
explain to people what that is now. What is
okay, well, a
EGS ring
gapless
is.
ring technically does have a gap, but what happens is it's two rings in one, right? And then the rings, instead of having a butted end, have like a 45 overlap, right? And they're hard as hell to gap. And then when you get it put together, it actually has like a stainless ring that's under the top ring that fills in the gap that it has. Now, my car did pick up like a 10th changing the rings to the gapless rings. Yeah.
No, it was just the second ring, right?
No, it was the top ring.
Top ring?
It was the top
ring.
Okay. Yeah. But the downside to the gapless rings, them things were probably 3 or 4 times as much as a regular set of rings. So I want to say I probably paid $200 something for a set of rings, but you could have got just some cast iron rings for $45.
Kyle Teal, what actually makes up nitromethane? CH3NO2.
Chlorine.
No.
What's CH?
No, it's actually ammonia based.
CH is chlorine. CH3, so it'd be 3 parts chlorine.
No,
NO2, which would be
it's 3 parts of
carbon and hydrogen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So it's carbon, hydrogen. Oh yeah. It's not CH. It's large H.
It's a derivative. It's actually a byproduct of what the fuck?
Well, it was originally made to be a cleaner, like a
an industrial solvent for cleaning printing presses was its main use. It's also used as an intermediary in making pharmaceuticals.
Oh,
right. There's a bunch of different uses for it. There's medical grade nitromethane, but it's a byproduct of ammonia. When they make ammonia, nitromethane is
a leftover.
Yeah.
And so the stories that I've seen are that originally it was tested. I want to say the first guys that used it was like the Bean Bandits, right out of San Diego or something like that. It was somewhere.
Yeah, the Bean Bandits were among the first. Yeah,
but what it was the guys.
Well, actually, hang on. Let me just get this super chat. Thumb throttle at 2,000 RPM for 20 minutes pure badassery. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Not the first time I've done that. The Bean Band. Okay, the pre-World War II German Formula One team was the first people to actually use nitromethane
in a racing application.
In a racing application, and then later on they used it. They experimented a lot with it in the Luftwaffe with their fighter planes.
Right.
Okay.
But it burned them off.
Right. Well, because it carries its own oxygen supply, your high altitude. Same thing with nitrous oxide. They put in nitrous oxide too, and nitromethane was just a liquid form of nitrous oxide. So they played with nitromethane on their high altitude planes, and then that technology kind of came over after the war, and the Bean Bandits were probably one of the first.
Well, the story that I heard that is one of the guys from the Bean Bandits was stationed with a guy during World War II that built. They didn't have RC cars back then, but they had cars that would run on a string.
Yeah.
Right. And you would essentially
tether cars.
Tether car. That's what it's called. Yeah. And you had tether cars and tethered planes. But tether cars ran on nitromethane, and that's the only way they could get enough power for them to actually do what they're supposed to do with that small little motor. Because back then they were only using like 0.8 cc motors, right? So real small.
El Morales, thank you, sir. Eli Morales, thank you. Matt Horvath, I know the Germans in World War II used it on the TA-1. I didn't know which specific plane it was. The TA-152 high altitude interceptor.
Well, did you happen to see the interview I did with Jim Hall for the AHRA Drag Racing History Channel? And he was talking about the early days of hydrazine, when he tried to start the car on hydrazine and it blew the entire internal of the motor into the pan. I just thought it was so funny because that stuff was like, I don't know, no one talks about it. And here's Jim talking about it like it's a daily occurrence, right?
Well, it was at that point.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
I got to answer. Hey, what's up? The 74 Ironhead. My profile pic has a 74. Nice. Be cool to see it. Cool bike. It's a kick only. Right now, it's just a roller, man. It's just a roller, and it's going to be a dirt bike, just a dedicated full-on dirt bike. And I'm looking for an XLCH motor for it now.
Wow.
Wow.
Fly is aggressive. We got a fly in here. One fly, and it's like, it ain't messing around.
Is hydrazine that violent?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it gets really violent when you let it sit.
Go watch that video. He talks about one of the engineers leaving the vial of hydrazine in the glove box of his car, and it exploded in the parking lot at like Detroit Dragway. Or no, it was National Dragway in Washington, D.C. But it's only a vial. So they would take like a whole entire tank of nitromethane mixed with methanol and add like a couple of drops of hydrazine. And that was it.
Hey, also have mine an XLCH 1000. Yeah, well, I mean, I gotta go with that because it, I don't want to carry the weight of a generator and a battery and all that other stuff, man. So it's like, because weight, it's got to be as light as possible. So yeah, but I'm looking.
The U.S. robbed a lot of German. No, we didn't rob anything. That was called spoils of war.
Yep, that's right.
When you win the war, you get the spoils. And they had a whole slew of paperwork on shit that they were inventing. Like rockets were invented by the Germans, and they were used at the tail end of the war. They were bombing. They were rocket bombing the British for what, like 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, we got their brain trust. They all came over here. Oppenheimer and all of them. Well, he wasn't. He was in a
no. Oppenheimer was a
German. Who was Werner von Braun.
And then whoever didn't end up in the States working for the government ended up down in South America, in like Uruguay. Argentina.
Yeah. There's still, evidently, there's still in Argentina, there's like big German areas where they only speak German.
That's how it was when I went to Uruguay. They had like German restaurants, like some of the best German food I've had outside of Germany.
Yeah, Operation Paperclip, yep. Which led to MK Ultra and all of the other things. Yes, I'm very familiar.
Russia got a lot of stuff too, because they essentially, if you think, all right, so the way it happened was they split Germany right down the middle, right? And you had East Germany and West Germany up until like what, 1991 or 2. But that's essentially how it went. So whatever was the spoils of the war on the East German side was the Russian stuff.
Well, they're saying the Russians got them too. Yeah, but we got the pick of the litter. We got there first.
You can watch. There's a movie. It was showing that whole thing, spoils of war. Oh man, Artifact Men or something like that. And then I can't remember what it's called. Something like that. But they were part of the crew that went there, and we showed up first. Matter of fact, we did stuff like roadblocks and blowing the bridges or whatever, so to keep the Russians out. So.
Okay. Monuments Men.
Monuments Men. That's it. Yep.
Let's see.
All right, so Mopar Den saying, Uncle Tony, you ever run a vintage short wheelbase dragster like they ran in the 60s, 70s? One came up here locally, now being restored after 37 years.
I had a 160-inch Woody Gilmore Flexi Flyer. It was a 1967 car, but that's as short as I ever got involved in, other than fuel altereds, which were 120-inch. Let's see.
Danny Boyd's asking, is anybody here like 59 to 60 Batwing Chevrolet Impalas? Hell yeah. They look good. I think they look good. And they were always the one everybody kicked to the curb, the 58 through 60. Well, it was 58 through 60, right? Because you had the Tri-5 before that. And it was like, you can't top the Tri-5. The 55, in my personal opinion, is like the perfect looking car.
Yeah, but then they had those dark years, man. 58, 59.
That's what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then so everybody's like, no, those are poo. I always liked them, especially the El Caminos. The El Caminos of that generation looked good.
61, they started looking really fucking good.
Yeah.
I think they could have skipped, right? Chevy could have gone from 57 to 61 and missed that whole thing in between, and they would have been aces, you know.
I just like the way, like you have you seen oh damn it, I can't remember the name of the movie now. Shit, I'm being put on the spot. I'm not with it today. What's the movie where Milner's driving around his 32 Ford? Toad in there had that badass looking Chevy that was Ron Howard's car.
Yeah, it's yeah, that was okay. I shouldn't paint them all with the same brush. They're just not as they're just not as.
They're not 55 to 57 Tri-5.
Right.
And then they're not as simple looking as a 61, 62, 63.
The 61 bubble top is my favorite body style.
I love bubble top cars, and the thing that nobody knows is that, yeah, American Graffiti. God damn it, I couldn't even think.
Yeah, it was right on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't think of it either.
But the Buick, Olds, and Pontiac got some of those bubble tops, and like you could order them with the bubble top. The same as a Chevrolet, but man, like a 61 Buick bubble top. Oh, it looks good. It looks good. Just that top. I always wanted to put a 455 on one.
61 Starliner. You know, those are good looking cars, man. Those are, you know, that's something. It's until he said it, right? I didn't, you know,
the Fords.
The Starliner. That was a good looking car.
Auto 1303 is asking, do I plan on doing a Buick install in the same fashion as Tony on YouTube? We were talking about that before we actually came on live tonight.
He's going to be doing a lot of stuff on his. He's been busy, but he's got a lot of YouTube ideas, a lot of things that are going to be happening on his channel.
Yeah, so I plan on doing some, and I'm back on the super stock, so I got to start putting up some videos of the super stock Buick that I'm working on, so everybody can see what's happening. I made an oil pan yesterday. And then it's not done yet, but it's getting there.
Hey Tony in Dallas. Whatever happened to drag racing engines that were run in the 80s that were super expensive? How or were they repurposed?
Most of them just disappeared and went into the corners of somebody's garage. There was a what is that? Ellison's Machine Shop.
Yeah,
that they turned up that cross flow of the 300 Ford.
Mostly, if you're talking about like the heavy stuff, right? Like blown fuel motors, let's say from the 1980s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, whatever it happened to be, they're not really motors. You see, people think of them as an engine because we're all, you know, that's one of the conceptual differences, and I think that's one of the different that's where a lot of things that I say or a lot of things that I do kind of get lost in translation, because that's what I did for 15 years is that type of engine. And that type of engine isn't actually an engine.
You can't use it in anything except for a top fuel car.
No. It's an assembly of parts. Okay? So in other words, it's this configuration this weekend. But next weekend, it'll have different heads and a different set of pistons. And then the next weekend, it'll have a different crank. And then the next weekend, it'll be a different block. And then the next weekend, it'll have, you see what I'm saying?
Right, because they were always blowing them up.
Well, no, yeah, but everything's always evolving. You know what I mean? Things are evolving. So it's never actually an engine. Like we build a street engine. You build a street engine, you know, or like a bracket race engine, you know, something that's going to stay together. And you think of it as an engine, and it's like this is the thing. But when you run stuff like when you're involved in things like fuel cars, it's not really an engine. It's only this assemblage of parts that will be a completely different assemblage of parts in, let's say, you know, next year. You know, next year, this thing that we're running right now will not have a single part that it had this year.
I've seen the engine blocks from like not necessarily the 70s and 80s, because at that point, they were already the aluminums. And what would happen is, like, say, a top fuel team would run them, and then they would tear them up, or the technology would evolve, and it would get passed down to like the alcohol guys.
Yeah.
Right. And then from the alcohol guys, it would go, they'd run them until they were pretty much done. But then it might get sold if it still was together.
Well, it was the tractor pull people. So what happened was he was okay. So you had nitro up until the 70s, right? It was the late okay, let's call it 1980 as the cutoff year, right? 1980. The use up nitro parts would go to the alcohol guys, and then when the alcohol guys were done with them, they pass them on to the tractor pull guys. Okay. So because the tractor pull guys had 4, 5, 6 freaking engines, you know what
Right,
I mean? So,
but they're only running them at, like, say they're not doing 11,000 RPM,
right,
you know, and
right.
on edge the whole time. They're meant to haul, so they're like $6,000 dead on, $6,000 for a whole time.
And those guys don't care if so. I mean, you get those tractor pull guys with the multiple engines, right? They don't care if a couple of cylinders ain't working here or the chamber's blown out on that one. It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, you got 36 pistons running.
Right.
You know?
So they would just take whatever was available and run it. But then in the 1980s, things started to get much more specialized. So alcohol cars evolved in a completely different direction, so they could no longer use the hand-me-down nitro parts. But the tractor pull guys were still using everything that anybody had. So yeah, I would say most of your really hardcore stuff from the 70s and the 80s it ended up in tractor pulls.
Now, if you go before, like anything that was in a fuel car from before, like 1974. Those blocks will still turn up every now and then, and you'll find some that are stamped like, let's say, Don Perdome. Don Perdome's name will be stamped in the block if it went through a Keith Black Hemi shop, right? And every now and then one of those blocks will turn up somewhere, like at Ray Barton's place where you took your Hemi at, right? But every now and then they'll get a Hemi block and it'll have somebody's name stamped in it. That's famous block. But that's after about 74, that stopped. Isn't that when they started coming out with aluminum blocks?
74, yeah. And people didn't completely switch over until around 1878. There was still a lot of iron motors out there. Howard Kennedy, do you know how much has to be cut off the input shaft of an 833 to use a roller bearing where the crank is not drilled for a pilot pushing 2 inches? And you still have to chamfer it. You cut off 2 inches, you chamfer it, and it'll fit through that. Use a Dodge Dakota throw-up bearing, not throw-up bearing, pilot bearing that just fits right into that hub of the crankshaft. Taps right in. In fact, we use one of those on Andy's Hemi. It's like the only deviation from, like, he wanted exact period stuff, all the way through. But it was the only deviation is we went with that Dakota pilot bearing.
So they're talking about X-frame cars, and they look good when they do.
Yeah. I love that.
There is an Impala that it ran at the Hot Rod Reunion a few years at Bowling Green. It's like maybe a 61 or 2 Impala. It's white. Had a 572 crate motor and a stick, and the guy would dump the clutch. Well, it might have had a racing automatic, and I don't know, but I think it was a stick car. And he dumped the clutch, and that thing would twist up so bad, right? Oh man, I still remember that way that car looked.
Let's see.
What is better, to regrind a stock cam or buy new? Well, right now you can't get a camcorder, so regrinding your stock cam is probably the best thing to do.
Yeah, camcorders are another thing that's.
Yeah, they're probably all sitting on a fucking freighter ship somewhere. I don't know where they've all gone. But I'm telling you guys, Schneider cams. Schneider cams had all the cores when I was out there. And it's the coolest freaking cam shop you ever seen. You can literally walk up to the window and order a cam like you're ordering a fucking burrito. It was the neatest thing I ever seen.
When Ken Vini retired from Top Fuel Tuning and went tractor pulling, his tractor was beautiful with that International Harvester tractor grill. Yeah, everything he did was first rate, man. He was an artist.
Kyle Teal saying, what about that Impala that does the Wheelie Nationals, that one up in Byron, the black one? It's like a 60 or 59.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Every year it gets trashed and twisted up, and I don't know how they straighten it out. And maybe they don't even straighten it out.
They just leave it. I'm sure they just leave it, and it just returns to its over time.
Yeah, over the trailer, we go across a gravel road on the way home, and it shakes it all back into place.
Years ago, we had a Challenger that was like that. After a hard run, you couldn't open the door.
Oh,
right.
I've heard stories like that. Yeah,
but then, like, you climb up to the freaking window, and then you let it sit for like an hour, and then everything just opens and closes normally.
The Fox body Mustangs were notorious for that, where you'd see the crack above the door.
Yep.
Up into the roof line.
When I had when I got rid of my Mustang, my 5-liter, there's a piece of molding that's over here, right at your head, where it overlaps. Okay, and the paint was not the paint, the well, I guess you call it paint, was scuffed away for like about 1/4 of an inch,
Where it would flex so bad.
It would flex like that. Yeah. The X frame flexes. Yes.
Yeah.
Travis Mopar Garage. Hey, Tony, I'm still confused about cam break-in. I always thought a roller cam did not break it and a flat tab needs to be. You're right. The roller cam does not need to be broken in.
Reese Holder is saying, thanks for the birthday card. I mean, all members get a birthday card. I don't want to be the guy that's
Get
like,
out of here, really?
yeah, well, so here's the thing that I always felt was bullshit. The only time I ever got anything from the NHRA when I was a member was a fucking renewal notice for like $300 something. And so every year on their birthday, I send them a birthday card, and it's got an AHRA decal and stuff in it.
That's nice.
Yeah, well, I just thought I'd be different.
That's the personal touch. That's the difference between
I try to be
the
different.
reptilian scumbags that run the NHRA.
Well, here's what's funny is like none of those guys are really car guys. They're all like bean counters,
car
right?
guys, yeah.
So I'm like the only sanctioning body out here that's building motors in my garage and putting them in junk and driving it to the track and you know, so you want to be part of the sanctioning body that's really in it for the car guy. I'm the only one. Go ask Scooter Picos. What was the last thing he put a fucking motor in?
Dr. Romex, 5-0 knocking the tail light lens off on launch.
Yeah,
in there.
They do that too.
Reese Holder says, it's really nice. I feel like I'm really part of the AHRA family.
Yeah,
if you come to his house, he'll cook you a turkey.
A whole one, even with feathers on it.
Oh, Travis Mopar. Okay, on the GTX live feed, I asked, and I swear you said that the other way around. No. The GTX is a flat tappet. It's not a roller. The GTX is a flat tappet. There might have been a miscommunication. My head was in other places. I was thinking about other things, you know, while we were answering questions.
Every time I tuned in was like at the end of the day because I've been working all day, and you looked exhausted. You looked exhausted every time. I'm like, oh man, I bet Tony is wore out. I've never seen him that tired looking.
No, I was actually I could have kept going. I was in my zone. That's my happy place.
What was funny is like, you know, I've seen you beat before because you've come from working here all day, or like on the Miata, and you'd come out to my house and it was like, shit, should I go inside and get a defibrillator? You know, like you looked bad, but you looked really worn out.
I'm in my zone when I'm doing that stuff. But you got to realize, so it's not just okay. So it's like one thing to do the work, and it's another thing to do the work and have to talk and answer questions and everything else. The mental, like the mental part of it is just like hugely taxing. You know, it's just like we get done doing these lives, right? Like we do this for like 2 hours, and then it's like I can't talk. I can't. It's just like that's it. I'm just done. I've done my talking quotient for 3 days now. You know what I mean? Like for the next 3 days, I just want silence.
Well, that's kind of true. What is it? Genesee Mech saying birthing a 426 keeps you awake. I would be pretty fucking stoked about that too. I'm like, wow. Jody Calhoun kicking down AHR in the Gulf Coast.
Mike Batista says it's stressful trying to make China parts work. Well, that's why we should have copper coated everything, and then we wouldn't have had that problem.
I just try to stay away from them. And you do the buy the NOS stuff.
Oh, Mike Batista was like trolling me during the build. It was this whole copper coat thing.
Oh, I did see that. Like, did you do the head gaskets or something? Is that where that came from?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'd almost be like,
he was really, bro, you did a great job because you were really getting under my skin. It was thumbs up.
Was copper coat the burgers and copper coat whatever you guys were eating. Did anybody bring pizzas? You should have went to Sammy's Brick Oven and took some takeout from there.
Bro, it was like we were just flogging. You know what I mean? We were just flogging. We had a lot of work to do, and everything was a question mark. You know what I mean? So it's like, and you're doing these question mark things in front of a live audience, and it's like, just keep going, just keep going. New City, like there's no time to just sit around and think about it.
Right now, I know.
Listen, thank you, sir. Dallas UT, I have nearly completed my 389 GTO engine in UT style. Careful valve job, back cut valves, modest factory cam, and attention to low friction. Can't wait for Island D use. Yeah. Can't wait for Island D. Oh, Island Dregley. Use and weekend grocery getter. Congratulations, brother, man. Keep us posted on how it goes.
I'm gonna do a stage 1 Buick like that. It's gonna be me and my kids go get ice cream in that sucker. But I cleaned up a block the other day. I gotta start putting it together, or else my parts are gonna end up walking off. I got people calling me left and right trying to buy stuff.
J. Russell Fish, too much male testosterone around the Hemi really took its toll on Tony. Yeah, I don't like being surrounded by guys. I was just but that's okay because we all worked. We were a machine, man. We worked we were a machine.
Well, that brings up a good point. I mean, you guys did work well together on that thing, and it went really quick, right?
It went fantastic.
But I have seen you attempt to work with other people, and it's like I was surprised it went as well as it did
because they were competent. They were competent. You know, they weren't. I didn't have to tell them 6 times to do this or do that. Like they were self-started. You know, it says, okay, put the fan on. Okay, the fan goes on. You know what I mean? And the other guys, there were like 3 of them under the car, because there was all kinds of issues getting the exhaust, getting the transmission in. The exhaust was all stuck together. I had to separate the exhaust. They were under the car for a couple hours, banging, and it was a mess. But everybody covered their weight, and it was just freaking awesome. You know?
Oh yeah, but it works when you got a team that they know what they're doing. When they can, and the big thing is when they can just see something that needs to be done and they do it. You don't have to tell them, "Hey, this needs to get done," or "We got to do this next," or whatever. It's like, oh wow, we got guys with experience. I guess that's the big one. Oh yeah, and I saw you guys torquing those intake manifold bolts. Are they really that freaking gooned up?
Yeah,
really.
They are.
What was it? Some ridiculous inch-pound number, like 42 inch-pounds or something.
It's all different. Yeah, I see. Oh, he's a nut with torquing things. I've always just run them down to where they feel right. But I don't know. Let's see if it loosens up. Kyle Taylor, how much prep did you do in the weeks prior to the 426 bolt? None. Because we wanted the only prep work I did was the
3
cam.
days ahead.
Yeah. I only did that because it was the only wild card. Like I didn't know if this was going to go on, and thank God I checked it right. And then I degreed it in ahead of time because I didn't want to have to deal with this. Okay, now we got a problem here on live TV.
It's 8 degrees retarded.
Right, exactly. So I did all of that ahead of time. But that's the only thing that got prepped ahead of time because we wanted all of it to be done in front of you guys so that you could follow along. That was the whole point.
Oh, this guy's talking about, he said 2 or 3 bad voltage regulators for his alternator.
I keep hearing that.
Really?
Yep. Read through the comments on some of the videos we did on faulty parts. And that's a common thing. 3 alternators before they work, 3 regulators before they work, but 4 relays before they got a good one, 3 dead coils out of the box. Yeah, no, this is epidemic, man. Read the comments on those parts videos that we've done, and it's.
Oh, I can believe it.
Stuff's going down.
I'm very, very picky on what I use. And I'll go out and say this, and I don't. Hopefully, it doesn't hurt me, but I go to the junkyard and get parts, and I would rather use a factory OEM part that's boogered up than use something new that's junk that I paid money for that won't work for longer than a week or won't work. Period.
I trust the cam is good and install it straight up. It's ground 4 degrees advanced, so I put it straight up. It's straight up is 4 degrees advanced.
Bad thermostats.
Yeah,
man,
Yeah, I just had this conversation with.
Thanks, Kick and Dell.
I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. About and they don't believe me. I'm like, okay, well, you'll see. UT Dallas, would you guys ever do a body swap on an S10 truck chassis type of build, or not your cup of tea type of builds? Not my cup of tea, but
I'd love to. I think an S10. I want to do an S10 with a 215 Buick. I need to do something with that. That was my plan this last week, was to strip down that 300, strip down that 455, and then strip down that 215, and then go through them and then pop them out.
J. Russell Finch is saying we are all party to junk parts. We chase the cheap prices, and you are absolutely
Oh
right.
yeah, it's us that drove it.
You are absolutely right. Wayne Taylor, 2 coils on my 92 Chevy 350 before the third one worked. And you know the worst part about that is, man, you take a new part out of the box. Like, okay, so you did your troubleshooting. You know what's wrong with the vehicle, and you go to the parts store and you buy a new one and you plug it in, and it doesn't work. And it's like now you have to like rethink your entire existence. You have to go back to the crib. You have to go back to learning how to walk. Because like all of your diagnostic methods and techniques were just proven wrong by this brand new part that didn't work. And it takes a little while to adjust to the fact that no, the brand new part is bad. You know what I mean? It's terrible. It's a psychological. It's like psychological torture. If you're a mechanic and you're dealing with this stuff, it really is. It will weigh on you.
So Central Bears is saying, do a 63 Wildcat with a 215, please, Sega. So I don't know if you've seen the one I'm doing, but okay. So a 63 Wildcat is a full-size car. The 215 is the aluminum motor, and they won't allow it in Sega. I have a 63 Special, which came with the 215. They wouldn't allow it, so I had to go to an iron block motor, and that led me down the path of the small block Buick. So I'm putting 350. It's actually 364 cubic inch small block and a 63 Special.
Let's see. Mongo Mini, why do you not take a factory tour of Denso in Athens, Tennessee, so you can have first-hand reviews? That's interesting. I didn't know they were there. Brent Taylor, thanks for the videos. I just bought my first motor and broke in the camera on a test day. Congratulations.
LB Bruin 79 says, he said, good luck with those Mexican-made Blue Streak points and condensers.
Okay.
So that might be something to put in the memory bank there.
Let's see.
No, the Danny Boyd, the 68 Buick 350 was 350 cubes. 364 was a nail head. The reason why mine is 364 is it's been offset ground, so it has a 3.9 stroke, and then it's bored 30 over. The 63 Buick Special is not an A body. It's considered a Y body. It's the same as a Corvair, but it's also, I mean, it's not rear engine and independent rear suspension, but the Pontiac, they ran the Tempest in super stock with that configuration, with 421 with that independent rear suspension. And Oldsmobile has the Jetfire. The Jetfire, the turbocharged 215 came out in those cars. But I was trying to do a what if, like nobody ever did one. And the neat thing is that 215, I could take it out, and the 350 literally bolts right in this place. You just use the 215 motor mounts.
Bruce W. Feeler gauge. What's the deal with Andy and setting up the rockers? I've never seen a feeler gauge force like that before. Is what he did wrong, or are there just so many ways to do it? Well, what he did was wrong, and I showed him the right way to do it. But remember, Andy is not a mechanic. Andy works on cars, but he's not really a mechanic. And I guess he just assumed that you wanted to be in there as tight as you can. But what he was setting at 20 thousandths was actually closer to like 17 or 18 thousandths. So I showed him after that. I showed him the kind of feel that you should have. But it is a judgment call because, like, okay, so if I set something at 20 thousandths, if Dallas sets it, it might actually be 21 thousandths, or it might be 19 thousandths. We all have a different feel for what it should be. You know what I'm saying? So it's not rocket science, but you want to try to get it as consistent as possible.
So there's something neat. They're bringing up this thing about Denso being in Athens, Tennessee, right? Molly is here in town.
Mally, yeah, but not the division that makes the auto parts.
What do they do?
They do all different. It's like a multinational conglomerate. They make all different things, but
they don't do auto parts here.
They don't do that. Yeah, they don't do the auto parts.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
I saw there was a hiring sign, and I was like, here, So I was like,
Pistons, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Pistons, right. It is rocket science, New City Carpet says. No, it's not. If you make it rocket science, it takes all the fun out of it.
Frank Kunkel says that he put a new Petronex distributor in my 455 olds and drove it for a week, drove 130 miles to Grand Bend, what is that, ON, Ontario? Raced on Saturday, Sunday morning, no start, module bad, and towed home. I've been saying it for years. I don't mess with those Petronics. I've heard nothing but horror stories where they give up. They're worse than the HEI, where it's like literally they give out while you're driving down the road. And then, the guys would say, yeah, just put another Petronics in your glove box. No, that's the same way I was with HEIs. HEI module in the glove box.
Francis Antonio, Tony, the timing sounded off on that Hemi. Did you instrument with a vacuum gauge? No, man. I set it up by eye so it would start on the first hit. I have no idea what the timing is. We didn't put a timing light or anything on it yet. That's the next step. But it was set to start, right? And it
wasn't lazy when it turned over. So I'm assuming you probably got it fairly retarded.
Yeah.
And all you need to do is to get it to the light. That's it. The whole goal is to break in the cam. It isn't get gas mileage. It isn't tune anything. It's breaking the cam.
John Wilburn says one of the worst mechanics I never knew was a legit rocket scientist for the local red for Army Arsenal.
Look at that. All right. So TC Haps 88, there's a story online of some guys from Kentucky that round track raced a small block Buick in the early 80s using mostly stock parts and handmade intake using a Mopar single plane and made 580 horsepower. What did I just do to you today?
Yeah.
I came and got some Mopar intake manifolds to see if I could get them to fit on a small block Buick. 60s Buick had a factory turbo? None. The Oldsmobile did. The Oldsmobile Jetfire is the same motor, but the Jetfire had the turbo.
What was this now? Mike Batista, I'll use a Petronics with an MSD 6AL box. Doesn't make any difference what box you use. When the module is bad, it's bad. It's not going to trigger that the same way it's not going to trigger just the regular coil. Paul Berryman, on the feeler gauges, there are step gauges. Some guys call them go no-go gauges for beginners. I heard about that, but I'm not really sure what that is.
Go no-go?
Yeah.
Oh, we use them on equipment in the Navy. You measure it with that. It's already something that's cut to 30 thousandths or 20 thousandths or whatever you want to set it to, right? And you just put it in there. If it don't fit, you move on to the next one, and that one you got to go back and reset.
Sid the Rock, Nick's garage has that same concern every time he starts a new build on the dyno. He should have that concern.
Everybody does, I'm sure.
Wow, when Lunar sent his 318 over there, it took him 12 minutes to get it started. They spun that motor for 12 freaking minutes. They didn't show it on a video, of course not.
Where was that?
At Nick's garage.
Oh my gosh!
They spun this thing for 12. Because Lunar sent to give me the update as it's going on, right?
Uh-huh.
They spun the motor. They couldn't. They had a problem with their ignition system. They spun it for 12 fucking minutes.
Wow.
Before it started. Cranking it. I don't know. But of course, they're not going to show that on the video.
No.
Right.
That makes them look bad.
With the MSD, you're only using the pickup coil. Yeah, I get that, but the pickup goes bad either way. It doesn't matter what the MSD still needs to be triggered by something. It's being triggered by the Petronics. If the Petronic goes bad, that's it. It's not. The Petronic is self-contained. The module is all under
What does that say? Hitlow says the 90s, the Jeeps were booming. The 96 4-liter output, high output, was the best Jeep I ever owned. I had a 94 two-door 5-speed Jeep that was literally a freak.
I had the same thing. I had the same exact. I had a I don't know if it was a 92, it might have been a 95, two-door 5-speed, and it was a freak. Absolutely.
I've heard that actually. Because see, those were the downfall of the Jeep was the automatic transmission. If you had the manual, then they last for like 200,000 miles.
Say that again now?
Wasn't the automatic the downfall in those Jeeps?
No,
and then the manual was the one to have?
No, that AW4 is a rock. The automatic transmission that's in those Jeeps, it's known to be like.
I thought they used like 700 R4 or something weird. Okay, well.
Yeah, John Wilbur was saying, I saw the raw footage. They cranked it for 12 minutes on a bad MSD box. The cam was wearing it all kinds of funky and would have failed. Yeah.
So John Mott says 4-second flat sells replacement ignition modules for Mopars. They're expensive, but they're made in the USA. Electronics are done in Florida.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
That's where when I bought a Schneider Cam in 2016, and they had an American-made roller retrofit lifter, right? And all their lifters were American-made at that time, and I don't know how it is now.
Camel Supply, Tony, what do you use for main and rod bearing lube when building a short block? Lately, I've been using these tubes. What the hell is that? A little black tube, like graphite stuff?
I don't know. I use Lucas.
I always use. I go to any. If I'm building an engine, I have a couple of tubes of the stuff that somebody gave me and I've been using. Right?
Is it Molly? The Molly lube?
No, it's the. It comes in a black and white tube. It's a graphite.
Yeah, it's a Molly, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know the name of it. But typically, I'll go to
Lube.
No, it's I can get a tube of it inside. But typically, man, if I'm going to build an engine, I go to the auto parts store. I grab a can of STP or Motor Honey or Lucas or anything. It doesn't make any difference. Any of those oil additives, the thick Motor Honey ones, and that's what I've always used. I had a deal when I was when I was racing with Bobby Lagana. We had a deal with BG. And I had BG Assembly Lube. I had like a case of that stuff, and I used that on I loved it. The BG was.
Hitlo says Buick Oldsmobile made some freak engines. They were special to the car. The Cutlass was one of them. The 350 Rocket was a sleeper. To tell you the truth, Hitlo, they actually had one that was the 350 Rocket that was called the W31. That was an absolute murder. It wasn't the Ramrod, and then what they called them, the Ramrod.
Yeah.
They were a murderer for a 350 cubic inch motor. Do solid roller lifters need to break in? No. Yeah, STP, Lucas, all of them. What you want is something with really high viscosity that's going to cling to the part that you're putting it on.
Right. That's all you need.
Right. And then because you're going to turn the motor over, let's say, you probably turn the motor over 20 times before it even fires, right, by hand. And you want something that stays there. Now, the shit's still going to drip off and run out, but it's got a lot of viscosity. It'll cling to whatever you put it on.
Yes, John Wilburn says, Just Mopar Joe is a dealer for 4 seconds flat stuff. It's doing great so far. They also sell no-weld curve kits for distributors. Interesting. Don Gould is a smart guy. Well, that's
maybe we should hit that guy up.
For
See if he wants to, like, hey man, let's try out some parts.
No, I don't want to do that.
No,
I mean, you could do that, but I don't want to get it because I don't want to get into that. It's like because if I like it, it's good. And I can say that, but if I don't like it, I'm going to. You can't really
say that, yeah.
Right. So it's like, I rather not get involved in that. You can build anything with STP. I agree. The Racer's Edge. STP is the Racer's Edge.
Well, this stuff is still the same formula from like the 60s, right?
Yeah. Andy Granatelli. Let's see. Paul Berryman says Valvoline oil has kept my oldies going for 37 plus years. Peter Kovacs, STP takes forever to pour. And that's what makes it an excellent pre-lube, an excellent, assembly lube.
Oh, I have to, so what is it? Nickum 82 says read the Cliff Ruggles book if you're going to rebuild a Q-Jet. That's exactly who I got that book, and then I actually called him to get some help with my Suburban carburetor because I was hoping he would have some stuff, and he did. He has some custom made metering rods that are full tapered instead of being stepped, and it helped me out a lot.
Ollie, would you put a zinc additive in a roller cam motor? No, absolutely not necessary.
Yeah.
Wheelie King says yes. It's moly graphite, stay lube engine. So that's it. Yeah. Stay lube engine. Okay, to be exact. I saw you whip out the tube, Tony, and thought, "Yep, that's good shit." Okay, then you know the stuff.
Yeah, I had some of that stuff, and that's the only reason I even knew about it.
Yeah.
It was moly.
Jason Towie, I know a machine shop swears by Schaefer's. I actually have a girl who used to be barista over at Starbucks, inherited a Schaefer oil distributor business. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Well, Cliff Ruggles, Super Galaxy Garage is saying Cliff Ruggles is a genius. He's got a Turbo 400 book too. That's really good.
But you still need zinc oil, not for a flat tappet cam. If it's flat, for a roller cam. If it's a roller cam, you do not need zinc oil. Only for flat tappet.
The zinc is only there for lifter cam,
right.
For a flat tappet lifter, face of the cam. That's it.
What does STP stand for? Stone Temple Pilots. Yes, it's the band. It's crazy, right? There's a rock band that makes
not Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh.
It was somebody that put it up here earlier. I think it is Studebaker transmission parts is what they put, but I don't think that's what it stands for. Just like JB Weld is Justice Brothers. I'm sure it stands for something, I don't know. It might be Studebaker transmission parts. Hell if I know.
Yes, Stone Temple Pilots. Yeah, when they're not making, their records, they're formulating new engine lubricants.
That's how they got into the music business. Right. Let's make American muscle cars great again. I don't think there's a day they haven't been great. That's probably like one of the biggest industries in America, is the aftermarket industry for American muscle car. And I'm sure that's why Super Tramp products. That's why the Chinese jumped in with both feet, selling you cheap knockoff parts.
Super Tramp products, yes.
Scientifically treated petroleum sounds all right.
Let's see. Everybody keeps saying scientifically treated petroleum. I think that's what it is. Specialized tested products. And so people are just going to anything that goes that has the initials ST and P, or just.
Well, I'm just going to have to come up with a new name for it.
Vince and what about using Rotella 1540 diesel oil for daily driver street use? That's what I use in all of my daily drivers. Yeah.
And sometimes if you go to Tractor Supply, you can get that same Rotella T4 in a 1030 formula. So I've been doing that too. It still has all the same zinc.
Super Tony products. Would zinc do any damage on a roller cam motor? No, it would not.
It'd just be a waste for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally got to go out and search for zinc oils. Like you got to find Rotella. In a roller cam motor, you can just put whatever's on the shelf in there.
Best two auto-related channels are Uncle Tony's Garage and Garage 54. I love those guys. Garage 54 is just awesome. They're more American than we are, right? You want to see what we should be like, right? Watch Garage 54. These guys tackle anything. They got an idea, whatever it is, no matter how harebrained it is, no matter how crazy it is, whatever. They get like just this kernel of an idea, and boom, they jump in and they do it, right? Have you ever seen this?
No.
You've never seen Garage 54?
No, I do like this though. Sexually transmitted popcorn.
Popcorn, yes. You got to watch out for that. Yeah, Garage 54 is a Russian YouTube channel. Okay.
Oh wait, is this the one where they were welding wheels together and stuff like that on the Ladas?
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen this.
Now, what they did that was very interesting what I thought was very interesting was they took a crankshaft and they cut it in half.
Oh yeah, you told me this, and they welded it back together.
They welded it back together again, and it was fine. Then they did one that I thought was fantastic because it's like you know, if you're an engine guy, if you're a gearhead engine guy, you're always speculating about stuff. They came up with this one, a 4-cylinder engine that had all 4 cylinders fire at once.
Oh, that's crazy.
Right? It didn't work. They cut the crank up. I just saw this like yesterday. Okay, I think it was last night. Okay,
Why wouldn't it work?
I don't know.
It'd just be like a Harley.
No, Harleys are different.
Well, doesn't Harley, the V twins, they fire one right after the other, like literally.
Yes, but no, this was
Succession.
all 4 cylinders lined up so that all 4 of them rose and fell at the same time.
The friction
and
probably
all
got it
fired
as it
together.
was going around through 4 cycles. Now, if it's 2-stroke,
Well, it ran, but it ran really poorly. It ran as if like the timing on it was like super retarded. Like it made no power at all. I think they need to get in there and figure something out. Maybe they because they had to cut the camshaft up also to make it phase it so that it would fire. Because basically it's 4 thumpers. You know what I mean? All doing a thing
all
together.
working together.
So it should have been this. It should have had like an explosive torque. You know.
Oh yeah.
Right? But it didn't. And I think what happened was probably when they cut the cam and reground and rewelded the cam, they might have goofed somewhere on the timing.
It wasn't in line. Yeah.
It was something like that. I think they're gonna. Let's see what happens. I bet you they revisit that and they fix that problem.
There you go. STP stands for switch the pistons.
Switch the pistons. Turn them around.
So, somebody was asking you, was the Hemi a switch piston, flip piston motor? I don't think it was, right?
No.
Didn't Barton do that short block? Oh, actually, it's aftermarket pistons.
Yeah.
They have no offset.
Right. Alan, who is this? Wayne Buzzle. Alan Milliard welds cams and cranks together. Okay, so, right? So, do you want to feel like a silly little girl? Okay, how much of an engine guy are you? How much of a builder are you? How blood and guts, hardcore, wrench guy are you? All right, your ego is based on that, right? Do you want to feel like a silly, worthless, dumb little shit nothing that knows nothing,
fake
that can do nothing,
guy.
right? Okay, watch Alan Milliard. Okay, go and look at this freaking guy and what he accomplishes in his basement, right? With a hacksaw. Okay, this guy is off the chain. I watch him. I watch his videos. I watch the stuff that he does, and I'm like, I do not ever deserve to pick up another tool for the rest of my life. I don't deserve to do any of this stuff. I am useless. I am worthless. It's pointless to go on. Go watch Alan Milliard. Seriously, and the guy is not human. He's not human. He takes these engines. He works with motorcycles. Okay. He takes these engines and cuts them all completely apart, takes the crankshafts, cuts them all completely apart, takes everything, cuts it all completely apart with a hacksaw, okay? And then welds it all back together again in any configuration that he wants. He'll build a V12. He'll take a couple of 4 cylinders. He'll build a V12. He'll take just anything he wants to do, right? And when he's finished with it, the finished product looks factory. Like after he's done with it, he'll stick it back on a motorcycle and it is indistinguishable from something that the factory would have done. This guy is he is our God. Right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is our God. Okay, I missed a super chat. Clayton K, thank you, sir. I have Edelbrock E Street heads on a 302. They say don't rev beyond 5,500 or use with a roller cam because the valve seats are powdered metal and the valves will bounce. Oof, sounds like bullshit. What do you guys think? I don't know about RPM. I've never heard of RPM affecting valve seats.
Springs. I could buy the springs that are like.
Yeah, they might have shit springs that are only good to 5,500 RPM.
I couldn't see it being a powdered metal seat because powdered metal is like what they make rods out of, and they heat it up and press it into a valve seat.
Yep.
Aren't those super hardened?
You would think, but evidently powdered metal has the same characteristics, heat dissipation characteristics as a hardened seat. But that's what they use. They use a powdered metal seat. But it's not, RPM doesn't affect the seat. Temperature affects the seat for sure. Detonation affects the seat. Lots of things affect the seat, but not RPM. If they're telling you not to run it past 5,500 RPM, it's because probably the springs that they equipped on those things. Right, Alan Milliard is an amazing man. He absolutely is, man. I'm telling you. You watch.
Is he on YouTube?
Yeah. Huh. You watch guys like me, or you watch, and it's like, oh, that's pretty impressive. No, I'm not impressive. You look at somebody like Alan Milliard, that is impressive. I don't care who you are or what you're into. You cannot look at what this guy does. And he does it. He's like this really mild-mannered English guy. You look at me and say, no, this guy, there's no way in hell he's a freaking machine the way he is, right? He does everything in this quaint British courtyard in this, right? Okay, it's like, you know what I'm saying? He does things outside on the grass, right? I mean, the guy's just amazing. He's absolutely amazing.
Oh, Mitchell Crank's asking, what's needed to put a Buick small block in a Chevy pickup motor mount wise? Actually, the Chevy trucks came with a Oldsmobile diesel, the 5.7 diesel in like 77, 78. Those motor mounts for an Oldsmobile are the same as a Buick small block. So whatever those holes are and whatever mounts that they use for the Oldsmobile, it work right with your Buick. Does he stop in the middle of the video for tea time?
He stops in the middle of the video and makes a cake. I mean, like, you think I'm joking, right? You gotta watch this stuff. You gotta watch him. Guy Martin. Guy Martin is good. Guy Martin does not hold a candle to Alan Milliard.
So Alan Milliard he's the new Burt Monroe, right?
No, he's way beyond Burt Monroe. He's beyond anybody I've ever seen, and I've seen some pretty intense people.
Oh, Andy's out. He said he's gonna 4:30 is awfully early.
Good night, Andy. I'll be on Andy's show at Unity Motorsports Garage. I'll be with Andy on this Friday night, 7:00 my time, 8:00 Eastern, and we'll be hanging out there on Andy Unity Motorsports Garage. And if you haven't already subscribed to Andy, well, first off, you're a lesser human. So go over there now and subscribe to Andy's channel. Right, very important step towards self-improvement. Go subscribe to Andy Unity Motorsports Garage and come and join us on Friday night, 7:00 Central, 8:00 Eastern.
Mike Batista saying the 360 Magnum is the most underrated Mopar. I still think it's the 318.
Yeah, the 318 is. Yeah, Project Farm Kickendall. Yeah, I watched a couple of Project Farm videos recently. That guy's really thorough, man. He's really thorough. Very impressive what he does. But again, see, it's different. It's a completely different thing. You go watch some Alan Milliard videos and then go rethink your life. Go sit in the freaking bathtub in the dark and rethink your life after you watch this guy's videos.
So we need to get to that paint video. We got to figure out what paint weighs.
Yes, there's a lot of things we're going to do. Well, you're winding up on the system.
I'm
season, rather.
Yeah, and I won't be back at it. Like right now, I'm working 4 hours a day in the morning, so I'm generally on the phone in the morning chasing tracks and stuff like that. But the Kickendale says they sit in the bathtub every night and rethink my life while waiting on retirement.
He's just like, oh, well, I'll just make some carbs. Yeah, that's what he does. I'll just make some carbs.
And just prevented someone from stealing a 76 Cutlass a little bit ago. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, Peter Kovacs, he watched paint dry. Now he'll watch paint being weighed.
I still think that's a kind of cool video.
We could put it on a digital scale and actually do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what we're asking for. You hang it like from a fishing scale, like a digital fishing scale, and then just add paint and see what it weighs. But we got to strip it down to a bare fender, right? And then we weigh it, and then we zero it, and then whatever you add is just primer and paint. Now, of course, this is not going to be like we're going to try to straighten the shit out of this thing. It's going to be like 2 coats of primer. Who cares how it looks? And then throw some paint on top, right? I mean, that's kind of how I'm picturing this.
So,
we're not going to be trying to straighten the thing out like
no,
crazy and put a bunch of Bondo on it.
Just paint. Paul Shea saying, Alan Milliard's video, the pictures are crazy enough. Straight 6 motorcycle. Can't wait to watch it. Straight 6. He built a V freaking 12. He built a V12. He took a KZ V12. Okay. I'm telling you.
So did he weld the block together?
Bro, he takes the engines. He cuts them apart with a hacksaw. He cuts the fucking things apart with a hacksaw.
Right.
Okay. And then he refits it all back together again, like a big jigsaw puzzle, including the crankshafts and and everything else. He just takes everything apart, cuts it all into pieces, sections it all up, builds whatever engine he wants out of it. The shit runs. It looks exactly factory. It looks exactly like it came from the factory. Yeah. Okay.
Is he welding the block back together?
He welds the block, that he finishes all of the welds so that you can't see it was ever welded. And then he polishes it so it looks like one piece, the whole bit, right? So and then you see just to go to the next level, he takes the leftover parts and builds engines out of the leftover parts.
He's got like a parts bin. That's not crap. That's just my extra parts.
No lie. He took a Kawasaki triple. He took an H2, okay? Cut it all apart and added a 4th cylinder to it. Okay? Which I actually believe was a mistake. Because I watched him ride the bike, and you can tell it doesn't have the same power curve that the 3-cylinder does. And
interesting.
Because I think what's happened is because it's firing every 120 degrees, instead of firing every 120 degrees, it's firing every 90 degrees. Right. And I think the power pulses are kind of overlapping and canceling each other out instead of complementing each other.
Okay.
So it doesn't have that same fluid motion it doesn't have that same fluid zing that the triple has. But that's beside the point. He put it together. It looks exactly factory. It runs like a bastard. Okay. And then he took because he needed 2 engines, had to cut up 2 engines to make that one.
Uh-huh.
He took what was left over and built a 2-cylinder, 2-stroke 500cc and put that in another bike. And that looks exactly factory.
Does it run good?
Yeah,
did the 2-cylinder run good? Because it would have been the same way. Well, it actually been like they've been firing 180 out, right?
Oh, and on top of that, I didn't even say it, right? He built one with a Viper motor. He's got a Viper engine in a motorcycle. He put a Viper. Now, you thought a Boss Horse was a big deal, right?
Yeah, Viper V10.
This guy's got a V10 in a motorcycle. And it looks like it came from the factory. It looks like something that somebody produced.
Yeah, Audi makes a W12 cylinder.
I'm sorry I turned you guys onto this because you're never going to come back and watch me anymore. You're going to be like, Uncle Tony, hell with that.
V6 versus V8, same cubic inches. Which one would make more power?
V8.
Well,
Dragon Gamer, thank you, man. Do you think it's a good idea to add cross bolts in the bottom of a 3-3 engine block for increased stabilization? No.
That's not even needed.
No. Tell you, Art Bell or George Norrie? George Norrie. Wasn't there a 16-cylinder Italian bike? I don't know. He's built. There's all kinds of crazy stuff.
Hey, so we're up on 2 hours already.
Oh my God,
that went by pretty fast.
Oh, tonight flew. Art Bell. No, I mean Art Bell was good. Art Bell was good, but George Norrie, man, he's Art. There was something dark about Art Bell. I can't put my finger on it exactly.
Weigh a factory painted fender and then strip it. I think we were going to figure out what primer weighs and then paint weighs, right? Isn't that what the plan was? We're going to start from.
Yeah, we're going to weigh the liquids. weigh the fender, and then we're going to put the liquids on the fender and weigh it after everything dries. And then we'll get the actual weight. RD350 with 2-stroke twins. Oh yeah, there were a bunch of them. There was the R5, then the RD. The Suzuki had the Titan, the 500 twin. Yeah, there were lots of 2-cylinder 2-strokes. So, okay, so guys, I think that's it, right? We're at 2 hours now.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're gonna pull a plug on this. He's been slacking. He's been slacking, but he's going to be doing a lot of shit now. Right now, the season is over. He's going to be working on his channel, his drag racing history channel, and he's got some other ideas.
I'm gonna actually start dabbling in some Buick stuff on my probably the AHRA drag racing history channel. I might just change it to the AHRA channel and then name those like off-season antics or something. I don't know.
All right, but yeah, there's lots of stuff coming his way. I think that's it, right? So Friday night, we're going to be on Unity Motorsports Garage. Please come and join us over there. So that'll be Friday night, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. And then Sunday night, we got Steve Maggs coming back. It's our Halloween show. We're going to talk about everything but cars, okay? We're going to talk about the unified field of weirdness, okay? So you guys got your ghost stories, your flying saucer stories, you got your Loch Ness monster stories, whatever you got, man. Bring us your weirdest stuff.
Area 51.
Area 51, Area 52, after your Area 71 is it, right? Okay.
The Manhattan Project.
The Manhattan Project, right? Bring us all of your the Philadelphia
experiment. Or Philadelphia experiment, I'm sorry.
So yeah, bring us all of your weirdest stuff, right? Sunday night. John Wilburn says Jim Bennett is live on his channel Saturday night. Okay, well there you go. So Saturday night, go over to John Wilburn's. You got Jim Bennett. And I think that's it, right? I think that's it, right? Guys, everybody who contributed Super Chat, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. You have no idea. Everybody contributed just with good conversation and your presence, man. Thank you so much.
For those of you that bought some merch or whatever, thank you very much.
Yes. And of course, our amazing mods, John, Fubar, Ari, Zero, thank you. And that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
We'll see you next Wednesday.
We're out of here, man.
After Halloween.
We're out of here. All right, guys. Good night, all.
Yeah, Philadelphia experiment would be cool.